Good morning, fellow streakers. How's everyone doing out there? It is Jeff and Jamie, and we're with you again. How you doing, Jamie?
Doing great. Good morning. We're excited to be here.
And why are we excited to be here again today? I mean, this we started out every week with we're excited to be here, and this week we have a really cool conversation that we're going to have.
No, because we have a guest person on. That's
And-
not our family.
But we would like for him to be family. Mr. Craig Christensen, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you. Delight to be here.
Craig Christensen, you are a fantastic individual who I got to know several years ago. He and I were working on a project together with a particular client, and we started to kind of hit it off. And you were introduced to streaking. Well, one of the things that I remember, Craig, is that Jamie and I had done a streaking presentation just before you got on to do some consulting. And
That's right. Yes.
you remember that? And we kind of
Yes.
missed each other.
Yes. And I just really felt bummed I didn't get the handouts from streaking.
We gave you the early handouts, though, and that's why we're having you on the show, is because we're making amends for what it used to be and saying, look, it's gotten so much better. You were one of our very first people that we shared our manuscript with way back in the dark ages.
And honestly, that's why he's Craig, you're just that trusted mentor and friend. One of the things I love about you, and I'm so glad that you're on the show with us, is because those early manuscripts of the streaking book you suffered through. I remember sitting in, and I think you'll remember this too. We were sitting in the lobby of the Courtyard Marriott?
Yes, it's Courtyard. Yes.
Yeah,
Courtyard Marriott.
and I'd given you the manuscript and you'd read through it and you said, well, let's talk about this for a minute, and in your nicest way possible.
Let's see what we can do here.
No, I'll tell you, even at the time, the idea is so remarkable and has made such a change in my life. In fact, it's actually helped me completely shift how I see performance. And so even back then, brilliant idea. And I think I've shared with you before, to see what you had then, which was a brilliant idea. You were trying to figure out how to express it. And then to be able to actually read what you've published, again, is great testimony that what you are saying is so incredibly powerful, because you took that fabulous idea and now you figured out a way to express in a way that's accessible even for those of us who are not as quick as you are.
Or maybe not as quick to write it down and think it through a little bit more before writing it down. Well, Craig joins us today with an extensive background. One of the things that Craig, he has an MBA from Harvard. From Harvard. And he also has an extensive consulting background with sales professionals and also executives and across the board. One of the things that, Craig, that I've been impressed with and that I'd really like to go into in relation to streaking and craft works and the whole concept of what you do as far as your company and your organization, Craftworks, because your website is www.craftworks.com, Kraftworks.com.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just phenomenal as far as the things that you've put together. So if you wouldn't mind, start with us, because you talked a little bit about performance. Start with us just a little bit on where the whole word craft came from, and then walk us a little bit down the path of the whole Kraft Curve, what that is, and we'll kind of pop in and out and have the conversation. So just start with us there, if you don't mind.
Happy to. It's interesting. My mother told me Kraftworks, like, well, that's not how you spell it. And I said, well, Mom, I'm not trying to be like Kraft, the company. It's actually, it's a different take. Kraft is an artistic use of the Danish word for force or strength. And then works is all about think like a ship works or a glass works, a place where people come together and do great stuff. And so my mother wasn't convinced, but I was. And basically what led me to this is, you're right. I've had a chance to work, for, over 25 years in this area of performance and what makes people good. And the frustrating thing was most people aren't. And I thought, what a terrible thing to say, but most of us really don't get very good. In fact, Anders Ericsson, who's the world's expert on expertise. I want that title, by the way.
I
Yes.
love that title.
Expert
Yeah,
on
who world's
expertise.
expert on
Who
expertise.
gave him the title?
I don't know. I think everyone who has read any of his research, because it's amazing. He's the one that coined he didn't coin the phrase. He did the research that Malcolm Gladwell coined when he talked about the 10,000 hours. If you work at 10,000 hours, that's when you actually develop world-class expertise. Well, it was Ericsson who actually did the research. Gladwell made it popular.
Okay.
Anyway, Ericsson makes the observation that most people don't have 20 years of experience. You actually spend about 12 to 16 months kind of getting to a level of acceptability. And then you plateau there for the rest of your career.
Wow.
Now,
really? Wow.
Most of us don't have 20 years of experience. We have 1 year of experience 20 times. And when I say the majority, I mean the vast majority of us, and I'll include myself in that group as well. Because part of what took me to this journey of Craftworks is my obsession to why aren't my clients doing better and doing more and being more fulfilled? And I realized that the challenge was the same challenge that I was facing, because I also had kind of reached a level of success, where you're doing some good things. I could say some good things to clients. I didn't slobber on myself. I never really embarrassed myself. But I found it was all just kind of general and that I didn't have my own expertise. And so it's when I decided to really double down and really start diving into this idea of craftsmanship, that things started to open up for me.
So let me ask you a question there just real quickly, because you brought up something that Jamie and I fundamentally believe. And the fundamental is that a master exists within everyone, but we don't know how to get that master out of us.
Yeah, we don't know how to tap into it sometimes.
Yes. In fact, Jamie, I think that's exactly right. It is the great irony, because every single one of us, in fact, Ericsson would call it cognitive adaptability. Every single one of us have that genius. And it's just that some people bring it out, some people don't. Bill Gates, the Beatles, Mozart, we love to think that they have this certain something that we just weren't born with.
Right.
And it's not true. We all have the same gift to get better and improve. We just give up on ourselves.
I was going to say, I find that both encouraging and depressing, where I'm like, okay, it's there. And then there's the part of me that's like, so why am I not tapping into it? What do I need to do here? What did they figure out?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We many of us have had a chance to work with Mahan Khalsa, who is a great teacher, friend, and business partner, and best-selling author of the book, Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. He made the observation that people's skills don't grow each year. However, their level of comfort with their lack of skills grows each year.
Oh, great. Wow. That's
so we
great.
get more comfortable being mediocre.
That's right. That's right. And so we all kind of just settle into this acceptability of kind of just mediocrity. Right. And I think that's one of the things that makes, Seth Godin is just on fire. His recent book, The Practice, I would recommend to all of your readers.
Did you read? So you've read it?
Yes.
So he had read the manuscript of Streaking before, and in the middle of writing that. I don't know if but in The Practice, he does, pay a little bit of homage to Streaking.
Oh, that wasn't lost on me at all.
Yeah.
Because he has the ability to tap into people's capability, just their innate. You don't have to learn it. You don't have to go to classes. You don't need consultants to tell you or coaches. All of us have this innate ability to be more, do more, and contribute more. And we just let it go. And I was monkey number one. I had gotten to a point in my career where, again, things were going well and some award-winning success and all those good things. And I realized I wasn't coming even close to what I could. And the discussions we would have, Jeff, around streaking, I'm convinced that the seeds of success are sown in routine.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not, again, we talk about habits, and frankly, I think we get freaked out by habits. I just don't have good habits. Routine almost sounds a little more benign, like, well, I can get a routine. And of course, that's the genius behind what you're doing in streaking. In fact, I've got it. Can I tell my favorite streaking story?
Okay, go ahead. Tell your
All right.
favorite streaking story. I love this.
So I'm moved by what Jeff teaches about streaking. And so I decided I'm going to start streaking. And so I decide I need to start doing my doctor recommended, Craig, you need to do more upper body strength. So I decided to start doing some exercises. And so, like everyone else, you make a whole bunch of, New Year's resolutions and none of them work. But after listening to you, Jeff, I decided I'm going to do one push-up, one sit-up, and one curl every day. It's all about the routine. And you start doing one, and sure enough, while you're down there, you're so close to the ground, you might as well rip out two.
Mm-hmm.
So, you get up
rip
to,
out two.
so you get out 40, 50, 75. So at Thanksgiving a couple of years ago, I tell my mom about my success. I said, Mom, it's just the most powerful thing ever. I started doing one sit-up and one push-up. When I told her that, she spit out her turkey and went, oh, son, that's not going to work doing one. You can't do one. I said, well, Mom, you don't stop at one. You start with one.
Right.
And that routine has made a change in my exercise to this day. Every single morning, I do one sit-up, one push-up, one curl, and I put on my running shorts.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes I take the running shorts right off and, get ready for the day. And other days I go out and actually run. Never far, never fast. More of a waddle.
And if you saw, if you were able to see Mr. Christensen right now, you would see this Adonis of a figure that he looks fantastic.
I know. I was going to say his one push-up, sit-up, crunch. It's working.
It's interesting because I remember the conversation that we had. We were walking Chicago's airport. Yeah, that loop, and we were talking about this. And it is one of the things that Jamie and I talk about all the time is how do we help people get past the idea that laughably small really does work. I mean, she was talking with one of her friends. Jamie was talking with one of her friends and having almost a similar conversation. And her friend's like, look, if I'm not going to do it hard and crazy, then I may as well not do it at all.
If I'm not going to work out hard, then I'm not going to work out.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's probably true.
That's probably true. You're not going to work out.
You can do hard all the time.
Yes, that is so true.
And so the thing that, as you talk about this, and I look back to our conversations, and a lot of streaks start in the physical realm because that's where people, I want to be healthy. I want to be fit. I want to have those things in my life. And there's tangible results to it. What you and I started to then talk about and where we went next with streaking was all about getting out of mediocre and into, into simple, small, tiny, consistent improvement every single day. And that's what attracted me to the Kraft Curve and everything you were doing there is because it's this idea of moving in upward, always upward, but it's not really about, it's not that you can't accomplish it. You can actually get it done. But I want to go back to something. I kind of went on a tangent.
I know. And I was just going to pipe in for a second because I've been thinking, we had someone tell us the other day who's been streaking for a little while, and it's Talon. We've had him on before. And this was really fascinating because one of his streaks is to sweat every day. That's what he wanted to do. So he's like, I just want to sweat every day.
That was it. Sweat at least one day. And he tells the story about how he ate a jalapeno one time.
Yeah, he's like, he goes, sometimes I'd eat a pepper because it's wet. And so, and I love the visual of your mom spitting out her turkey because I'm like, that is true definition of laughably simple. And it was so when we've talked with Talon before, and one of the things that he said that he wanted to be is he said, I want to be a person that gets up early in the morning. And so we spent one day talking about what kind of streak would you have
to be a person to get up early in the morning
person. And we batted that around for a long time. It was like 45 minutes, an hour, just kind of being like, what kind of streak could you set around that? And it was interesting because the other day we were talking to him and he's had his sweat streak for
248 days, I think is
Okay,
what it
it's a
is.
couple hundred days. So
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
been a streak that he's had. And he mentioned the other day, he said, you know, because of that sweat streak, I am getting up earlier. Like that. And so it lends itself to what you were saying, that when you start with this something small, how it lends itself to, you're like, well, I'm already out. Let's just keep going. And for whatever reason, it's hard to get started. And maybe it's because we think it has to be better than where we can start.
Right. Well, so
And we're
that's
not, and it's too far away, but giving yourself permission to start someplace small and then being successful, all of a sudden you're like, well, I want to do more.
yeah.
Yes.
So that, and that's where I wanted to go with you, Craig, is so you recognize this place in your own life, the deficiency in your own life, and
Right.
that's where I believe all of us start, because that's why we started streaking,
Yeah,
is because
exactly.
of
This
our
was for us
deficiencies.
and our deficiencies.
And so when you mentioned how then, so you started to develop and say, okay, how do I get past this mediocre? How do I start moving in a direction? I mean, you started to think through that. And so how do you, and how do you see others starting to try to get past, just being mediocre?
Yeah. Well, it's one of the reasons I believe so much in routine. Again, you call it streaking. To me, it's just routine. There's so many books on habits, and so many great books on habits. But even habits can be intimidating.
Right.
I love Mark Twain's quote about what we're so confident about. Jamie, you were saying, we just don't think we can do it. Mark Twain made the observation, it's not what we don't know that will hurt us. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so.
Yeah.
And there's so many myths that we have about, I've got to have a healthy habits. No, stop the healthy habit stuff. Just get a routine, get a streak. That's all you need. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite philosophers is Scott Adams. He's the author of Dilbert. And he was always famous. One of his famous lines for me is he wrote a book called I think it's like How to Fail at Almost Everything and Succeed. But he talks about goals are for losers. And I remember when I first heard that, I thought, excuse me, come again? Goals are for losers, because we're taught
exactly
to have goals. And I too am convinced that goals are absolutely going to get in your way. Goals in terms of net outcomes, things you want to achieve in the future. There's this whole idea that, if we somehow, strive for something way into the future, what's so beautiful and simple about streaking is that it's so immediate. It's a routine I can do every single insert frequency here.
Right.
Time you wake up every day, whatever. And so that's what I found was the key to working with clients, is because they weren't accomplishing great things. As soon as we left, the skills left as well. And I thought there's something missing in the craftsmanship. And that's where I became obsessed with this idea of craftsmanship. Like, what is it about craft? And what I'm convinced of is craft is the innate. Jamie, back to what you were saying, this is what's in us inherently. And it's just letting that out, and routine will do that every day. You don't have to set big goals, because what you'll do is you'll start focusing on outcomes that you don't control rather than means or process that you do control every single day without even a lot of fanfare or effort.
So there is so much richness in everything that you're saying.
I know. I'm trying not to interrupt you.
I know our minds are afire, because what we look at, Craig, and what you've said is people are, and you use the word intimidated by habits. That's a really good word, because I think that Jamie and I have looked at it, and when we talk with people, there are two definitions of habits that they go by. One definition, and by the way, I did this the other day on LinkedIn. I put out a question. I said, quick, define a habit. And the first two responses, the first one was something you do automatic, and the second response was something you do repetitively. And so you look at those two things, and where the intimidation comes from, and what we've seen is that people think that definition number two, something you do repetitively, will become definition number one, something you do automatically. And it's just not true. It will not, in most cases, and it won't happen. And that's where you've got to bring it to a conscious level of, I'm going to be conscious about this. And that's why you say routine. Routines and streaks work very well together because it keeps you on this process of every single day. Jamie, you had a thought.
Well, just as you were talking about goals, I love what you're like, goals are for, what is it? Goals are for losers?
Losers.
Goals are for losers. And as you were talking, I thought, here's the thing that I get frustrated with when I set my goals is I focus on the glory that I'll get when I receive the goal, when I accomplish the goal. People are going to think I'm amazing because I've done this thing, which focuses on the outcome. But there's so much that needs to be done between where I am and what I have to do to accomplish that goal. And when I'm thinking about, the glory at the end of the rainbow, I'm not thinking about all the steps that I have to take in between. So then I get frustrated sometimes with those steps because I wasn't thinking about that. I don't want to take those steps. I want the glory that the goal is going to bring when I've accomplished it. And I love that tweaking it a little bit and saying, okay, if I focus more on the input, the things that I do have control over, the things that I can, it helps me to recognize, one, to be more patient, to don't get so caught up in the glory of crossing that finish line, but to think, and I'm using the marathon or running analogy right now, and that's probably because when I first started running a marathon, I thought a lot about the glory of crossing that finish line.
Yes.
Not the 500 miles of training that it would take to get.
That it would take to get there. Yes. And so and as you're talking, I love your word craftsmanship, because I've been thinking, we went to Maine several years ago and we went to this
Thomas Mosier,
and he creates furniture.
Oh, it is beautiful furniture too. I mean, it's stunning cherry wood furniture that would absolutely
all handcrafted.
Yeah,
and it's
handcrafted.
Beautiful. And I thought about it and I thought, that's what craftsmanship is. It's the patience to continue tweaking something over and over and over again till you've created literally a masterpiece.
Absolutely. So one of the things, and this is a Jamie phrase that she coined just the other day on our podcast, Craig, you ready for this?
Yes.
It is tweaking your thinking.
Yeah, tweaking your thinking.
That's it. It's tweaking your thinking. It was such a great phrase because that's what you're doing. You're tweaking your thinking to be to the place where you need to be to make this journey, rather than thinking of it as the output and what the outcome is going to be, and putting your focus there. One of our taglines that we have is streaks. We call it greater than goals and more powerful than habits. Discover your streaks.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
So it's one of these things, and you can see why I love talking with Craig, because he just makes you feel so amazing.
Well, I've been getting a little list of things here. First of all, I've got 3 books already that I'm like, I need to read these books. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to add to what you're saying. This is so natural to us, and we have become so unnatural. And so part of my obsession, we're all twisted in a different way. I'm twisted around craft. Like what is it that allows you to really tap into that? And I am convinced, as I said earlier, it's those little seeds. I mean, in the New Testament, it talks about, if you have a faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. Well, that's quite a projection.
Yes.
And if you've ever seen a mustard seed is about the size of a poppy, like a little
poppy seed.
You see, it's not the seed. It's the belief in the seed. And we all have those seeds within us. And we don't do the daily things to just nurture those simple little things. Our culture is obsessed with achievement. Mm-hmm. And if you look at, again, I study a lot of high performers in sports, in business, and every single one that I read about talks about the little bitty elements that they focus on each day. They do not focus, take an NCAA champion who's coached multiple teams. They never focus on winning the championship. It's what can you do in this play, in this exercise right now, right here. It's always in the moment. So that's what happens. One of my favorite authors is Austin Kleon. You put it this way: everyone wants to be the noun without doing the verb.
Yes. Yep.
And so we have a culture of being a noun, of being a marathoner, of, taking a company public, of having a family, and we forget all of the little tiny daily things that you do as part of routine that you could actually track and map and streak with. Instead, we give it up to, well, I'm just not a marathoner. My company would never be successful. I don't know that I can have that kind of family. And we give up on ourselves before we even begin that journey.
Right.
That is so just absolutely encouraging. It's depressing and encouraging all in the same breath, because you look at it and say, the seeds are within me, but what do I need to nurture those seeds? How do I get them growing? Which is what we're going to talk about with Craig on our next podcast. Craig, this has been absolutely phenomenal. We're going to have you on our next podcast because we got to keep this conversation going. So hopefully everyone out there, if you have a question for Jamie or me or Craig, you can reach us at Jeffrey at JEFFERY at streakingmastery.com, or
Jamie at JAMI at streakingmastery.com.
Or Craig, where can they reach you if they have a question about the mastery and the Craftworks and so forth?
You can reach me at Craig, CRAIG, at Craftworks, KRAFTWORX.com.
Love that. It does, doesn't it?
Perfect.
It's perfect. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and until next time, keep streaking.
Do one push up, become a better you. It's the small and simple things that make you grow into what you're hoping. You're in a hurry, don't even worry. It's too simple not to do.